law schools in regards to this?
I mean, we all know that lawyers are required to take CLE, continuing legal education credits, to re-up on their license every 2 years. Okay. And I've talked to I don't know how many bar associations to, further my self as a speaker in coursework for lawyers nationally. They don't want any part of me. I must have I must be a maverick with this lightning rod on my forehead, right, because I am so controversial, so politically incorrect, so Donald Trump-like, and a guy who has Donald Trump's initials.
That's right.
That they just want to avoid me like the plague.
That's too funny. Very similar to
and that's sad,
Yes.
But I'm not here to be friends. I am here to clear a guy's name and put him back with his family, right, whether he's been falsely accused of incest, whether he's been falsely accused of alienation, whether he's the victim of alienation, and the child is the pawn, weapon, or tool caught in the middle. Right. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to do a job, and with a guy who's had 1 million hits at his website, you can imagine that my cell phone and my email, they don't take a rest. They don't take a holiday. Yeah. So I've got a continual overflow of people getting a hold of me. Yeah. And I give a lot of my time for free on Facebook to parents that are in duck soup, in the throes of the system, don't have any money, don't have anywhere to turn, and I try to give as much general advice as I can.
Right.
And I do that at no cost. So, unfortunately, there's only one of me out there, and you've got scores of Child Protective Services workers, guardians ad litem, therapists, and cops, and forensic interviewers on the other side, people that I go up against in courts of law all the time. Yeah. So I'm past 60 years old now. I've been doing this more than half my life, since the mid '80s. Mm-hmm. There's nobody coming up behind me in their 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s, which is sad, who can do what I do, and I wish there were. Yeah. Because I'm not going to be around forever, and I don't, like I said 32 years ago, I was hopeful this issue would not be around when the new millennium hit. I was wrong, and it's actually gotten worse.
Right.
Well, and to that point, Dean, that's a great point. You say it's gotten worse. What's the fallout from these situations? That's what I'm looking at, because look, I've been falsely accused multiple times, and it just continues and it continues and it continues, and it's like a snowball effect, and eventually they beat your children down to the point where the children say, I just can't take this anymore. I have to choose a side, and I'm going to choose the side that keeps accusing my father, or it could be the mother, or whatever side. Yeah. And the fallout is
again, it comes down to a team. It's not just Tom Brady taking the Patriots to the Super Bowl. It's a team. Right. It's got to be a team. It's got to be a team in court. There's got to be a marriage between the lawyer and the expert. Yep. So think of it like going to the aquarium, where the sea anemone protects the clownfish and the clownfish feeds the anemone. It's called symbiosis. Mm-hmm. Same thing here. There has to be symbiosis between the lawyer and the expert. The lawyer protects the expert feeds the lawyer information. Right. So in the case of false allegations, you want to feed the lawyer learned treatises, peer-reviewed scientific journal articles on the iatrogenic, inimical, harmful effects of psychotherapy, and the fallout of the false allegations on the children. Right. Perhaps the kids are having somatic issues, nausea, vomiting, headaches, stomach aches. Perhaps PTSD, not because they've been molested, but because they've been eviscerated from the life of daddy, and vice versa. Right. Bedwetting, nightmares, and flashbacks, and everything else that the system will tell you is indicative of sex abuse. I'm going to tell you could be indicative of 1,000 other things.
Well, right, and even moving forward in that child's life, we're talking about drug use, we're talking about violent crime. Yeah. I mean, there's statistics that prove all these things, that children that have been alienated, children that only grew up in one household parent homes, are significantly higher at risk for violent crimes, drug use, suicides, a host of number of psychological and physiological issues. And that's the thing that right now, you know, Dean, it sounds like you're an expert in this. It sounds like you're well versed in all that. We need to train more people. Like you said, there's no attorneys. And I feel like the reason you have no courses in this with the Bar Association, because they make money off of this. It feeds into the system, the symbiotic relationship that you're talking about.
You know, Dr. Ralph Underwager, who wrote the foreword to my first book, Don't Blame Me, Daddy, published in '92, 25 years ago, said in the foreword, if you took the profit away from the problem, the solution will go a long way towards correcting itself.
Right.
That's right.
So,
I'm a firm believer in that.
This is a huge resource maker for the system. Everybody's making money at the expense of families and children.
Yeah.
And certainly, you know, really the lawyer is the quarterback. The lawyer is the captain of the ship.
Right.
So I become the running back, and the lawyer hands the ball off to me. I score the touchdown. But in reality, the lawyer is in charge of the litigation of the case.
Yes.
Right.
And I have to respect that, and I have to take my marching orders from counsel. And they're not all created equal.
No.
Well, you know, that's certainly true. And unfortunately, a lot of attorneys may even know the truth, may even want to speak the truth, but the system is such that they're entrenched in this, like, formula. Hey, you've just got to go along with the program. You've got to go along with this.
Right.
It's a good point, and it's a lot of the reason why I try to get litigants, fathers and mothers both, when I'm hired onto a case and working for them, to hire counsel from outside the jurisdiction of the litigation.
Yeah.
So either on the other side of the state, or even what's called pro hoc vice, bringing a lawyer in from out of state to work with the local lawyer, where the out of state lawyer becomes first chair counsel or lead counsel.
Right.
You got to do what you got to do to win.
Right.
And clearly the system is going to do that.
Right.
The system is going to try to break you down.
Yes.
It's going to try to financially bankrupt you. It's going to try to emotionally and physically dwindle you to where you don't want to fight anymore. You have no will to fight. And I'm the guy on the other side who stands between you and a prison cell. I'm the guy on the other side who stands between you and lifelong sex offender registration.
Right.
I'm the guy on the other side that stands between you and seeing your kids again.
Right.
So, you know, being myself a victim first, 32 years ago, obviously, yes, I have to pay for the groceries like everybody else. I do this for a living. I have to make money. Mm-hmm. But I have a passion to win.
All right.
And so when I'm up on a case, by God, and you're on the other side against me, you better get up pretty early in the morning to know what I know.
Right. Now, given said that you're really strong in your beliefs and you've got a system that you believe in and so forth, have you suffered or people try to put retribution on you because of what you're doing, because of the way you're trying to kind of fix the system?
I just got done with a case here in Florida last week, and the prosecutor mentioned to the judge, Mr. Tong has a bias. He was arrested in the very case that he's helping the accused on. He was a victim of this, Judge, over 30 years ago.
Right.
You can't accept him as an expert. Judge says, has he ever been convicted? And the prosecutor says, well, no, he's only been arrested. Well, you know, unless you have case law from me, I can't hold that against him. He's only been arrested. He hasn't been convicted.
Right.
The judge said it was unusual. He had never seen a case where a victim of child sexual assault went on to become an expert in the field. But, you know, when it came time for me to get on the stand, I did tender and testify as an expert in multiple areas of psychology, and not only at hearing, but at trial. And at trial, the prosecutor didn't even mention to the jury. This was a criminal case. The prosecutor didn't even mention to the jury I had been arrested on this very crime and topic over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow.
But beyond that, you know, I also represent mothers, like I said earlier, You know, when I appeared on Dr. Phil in 2004, I appeared with a mother from New York City who was falsely accused of coaching her kids to accuse the father of incest in that case. And, you know, we went to the appellate court when we lost custody, the mother did, to the father, and we won in the appeals court. And she got her kids back in April of '05, a dozen years ago, 7 months after we did the Dr. Phil show, and she never looked back. Nice. You know, those kids are getting ready to emancipate now and reach the age of majority. They were like 4 or 5 when I got involved.
That's great. Well, we're not Dr. Phil yet, but we're working on it. That's incredible, Dean. It sounds like you've been going at this longer than I have. I thought I was the old timer in the group. I've been going since '92. And you believe me, you're gotten farther along than I have. I really appreciate. I mean, you sent me to someone who's willing to help me, and in fact has made strides.
And you guys are reporting out in New Hampshire, are you not?
Yes, we are.
That's correct.
Okay, so I was involved in a case last year in Merrimack County in Concord.
Okay.
And my client was a respected psychologist who was accused of, and ran arrested for, molesting a child in therapy that he was seeing.
Wow.
He wound up getting convicted. He wound up getting convicted. He's doing basically life in prison in your state of New Hampshire there.
Wow.
And my point is that the lawyers in that case never used me at trial.
Really?
Huge mistake.
Oh.
So you were never brought.
You know, I've testified over 20 times nationally in these cases. I'm very seasoned on the witness stand, and clearly, the jury's going to hear from the accusing, complaining child in these cases. So that pretty much tells you the jury wants to hear from not only the accused, but an expert on how a child could develop false memories, or a child who could be very suggestible, who can talk about, you know, the Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, Easter Bunny, or Peter Pan, and can talk about how daddy or how this psychologist touched me in bad places.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Juries
crazy.
need to understand how that can happen. Because the mindset of the system is children don't lie, children are not mistaken about private parts touches.
Right.
It must have happened if they said it did.
Right. Yeah, it's
the operating maxim. That has to be impeached, and it has to be impeached very quickly.
Right.
It's very sad. I mean, I was unable to even get a lawyer, and I don't know. That might even be. That was part of the process, you know, the whole retainer fee. It was going to be at least a 10-year fight, and I couldn't. They couldn't represent me without a huge retainer. So I fought myself.
You know, and what I find in criminal cases, lawyers will command typically a $25,000 fee to represent you in a criminal case of child sexual assault, and they'll take that fee. And then 4 or 5 months down the road, I get a call. It may be too late for me to help, maybe not. But the bottom line is, the lawyer has already set the client up to plea bargain.
Right.
And the lawyer can sleep very fine at night knowing you only got 10 years versus 25 years, and of course lifelong sex offender registration. So in these cases, you will register as a sex offender for life. That's always their fallback plan B.
Yeah.
You can kill somebody, not have to register as a murderer, but you do have to register as a sex offender in these cases.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The double standards that are out there.
So most of my cases go to trial. Most of my cases, it's Mike Tyson time. It's going to go to trial.
Yeah.
It's going to be a 12 or 15 round knockout punch, and it's going to go to trial. There's going to be a winner, and there's going to be a loser.
Nice.
Now, Dean, when you said you were in New Hampshire and you were supposed to testify, and they never called you to testify, do you remember who the attorneys were on that case? Because that happens a lot in New Hampshire, where experts and evidence and witnesses are not allowed in the court. And we have certain judges that deny experts, witnesses, testimony. It's an easy way to close the case. And like you're saying, hey, the lawyer says, why don't you just make this plea deal? that's why you want to make the plea deal, because you know the judge isn't going to allow any testimony. They're not going to let credible witnesses or evidence in.
Right.
Well, the judge clearly does have that power, and
Right.
you know, if you do get convicted, you have two routes on appeal. The first route being a direct appeal on abuse of discretion by the trial court. The second route of appeal being for ineffective assistance of counsel.
Right.
So I never did appear in your state on that case. I was a
Okay.
long distance hire.
Yeah.
And that's because they never used me at the trial. I was deposed by the prosecutor from Merrimack County
Yeah.
over the phone, and a lot of times I will now give testimony in my deposition, or
Yeah.
if I'm testifying at what's called a Daubert Rule 702 hearing, which is basically expert science and controversy. I can do that by phone. It saves time, money, and effort.
Right.
I got you.
And avoids me having to get on an airplane.
Yeah.
Right.
But obviously, trial testimony in front of a jury, I would have to physically be there.
Sure.
That didn't happen because the lawyers said, we're not going to use you. Well, obviously that decision became legal suicide.
Yes.
As the doctor got convicted and sentenced to life in prison. I'm not gonna publicly state the name of the
Sure.
lawyer.
Right.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
You know, because obviously I think I'd be doing a disservice to the legal profession that I have to work with 24/7, 365 if I
Right.
did that. But if you email me or message me, I'll be glad to give you the lawyer's name.
Okay.
Back channel. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll certainly would like to do that, because in the state of New Hampshire, we're seeing a lot of patterns. It's this attorney. They're connected to these people. It's kind of a connected thing in New Hampshire. So I'll definitely reach out to you via email. I certainly understand your
Well, you
professional.
know, and I've worked cases from all 50 states. I may be the only guy in America who has done that. I'm not bragging. It's just a fact.
Right.
You know, so obviously I see this pervasively, you know, with the good old boys connection system in these cases.
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we see that more often than we should.
It's absolutely, and I think the as far as the ability for exposure to the problem is becoming a lot more evident as well, which is going to bring out more alienated parents.
I mean, for example, I was the national spokesperson for Court TV at Michael Jackson's trial in '05.
Right.
That was me.
Right.
I also did a lot of media on Kobe Bryant's adult rape case in 2004 for MSNBC. But yet I've also been a Fox News radio commentator on the John Benet Ramsey case, which obviously was an actual case of murder.
Right.
So I try to be objective. Obviously, this is a case where when kids are abused, that's a terrible thing, and the accused, the perpetrator should be prosecuted to the fullest extent allowed by law. But on the other side, not only should the falsely accused be compensated,
Right.
both in court and perhaps out of court,
Yeah.
for damages, but I want to see further prosecutions against false accusers.
Right.
Right.
Well, in
And and in my state, it's a felony.
Right.
It's a felony. You can go to prison for up to 5 years in my state of Florida, but we're one of very few states in America that make it a felony.